Bedrosian throws to Sandberg, and the pitch is grounded to second base. Thompson has it, throws to first. It's over. 27 years of waiting have come to an end. The Giants have won the pennant.
All right, Brad, we're knocking this one out a day early as you and the family are going on vacation starting tomorrow, actually. So
Yeah.
what's the plan? Where are you going? How long are you going to be gone?
Well, the plan is to leave the house at 6 a.m. Tomorrow to head to Vegas. We drive down there. It's about a 7-hour drive, but if with the stops, it becomes 7 or 8, somewhere in there. But with 2 daughters and a wife, I plan on 6 o'clock. It's probably going to be like 7 o'clock because that's, everybody's got to get ready and stuff like that. So hit Vegas.
We can throw on a hat and some shorts and go.
Good
They probably don't feel comfortable doing that. They kind of want to get their act together a little bit. Especially heading into Vegas, because when you land in Vegas, you kind of got to there's a echelon of how people prepare to look in Vegas. So
but the thing is, when driving 8 hours, you can look as good as you want before you leave. But when you get there after driving for 8 hours, man, you're just sweaty and hot and tired. And, luckily with my bad back, I've got the heated seat. So that'll be nice. Drive down there with the heated seat.
Okay. What is the weather supposed to be like in Vegas this week?
Well, the funny thing, and I haven't looked today, but that's a good question because I want to look, because you can see behind me in Reno.
Yes.
It's windy, but that's normal for us. It's windy and there's a little front coming through, but a front in June is like, oh my God, it's going to drop from 95 degrees to 80 degrees. So right now, that's not where I'm not looking in Pakistan. I put Las Vegas. Come on, computer. Help me out here. All right, there we go. There's a Las Vegas, New Mexico, but that's not the one we're going to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a discrepancy on the amount of vacations that go to Las Vegas, Nevada, and Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Yeah, for sure.
Imagine booking the wrong plane trip. Like if you didn't, maybe you're from out of town or out of the country, and you're like, oh, there you go. Yeah. And then you fly into New Mexico.
I got a sweet room in Vegas for $29 a night. Like, oh. So we got upper 90s. When we roll into town tomorrow, we got 99, then 97 on Tuesday. So that'll be a nice day.
A little bit of a break.
Then we go to 103, 110, 106. And then next weekend, it drops back down into the upper to mid 90s. Lots of wind coming through on Friday and Saturday. But, when you're sitting at the pool and it's 98 degrees and you got wind, I'll take that.
Yeah.
That goes well with the cold beer.
So it'll be fun. You and I were talking, for some reason, even though you have a subscription to the MLB app, they don't show. They're blacked out in Las Vegas. You're gonna have to find a sports book or something.
No, there's 6 teams. I want to go back to our text thread here. There are 6 teams that are blacked out in Vegas. The Angels, the Dodgers, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the A's, and the Giants. And I thought, oh, well, cool. If we're blacked out, that means we get NBC Sports Bay Area down there.
Yeah.
No. Nope. So I'd love Major League Baseball to explain the blackout rules again, coherently, to say why, when I'm in Vegas, I can't watch the Giants on TV and I can't watch them on the MLB.TV app. I can only listen to them. I can't view them anywhere unless I go to the sports book. So maybe that's the racket. Maybe that's why Vegas has 6 blacked out teams.
Vegas should black out every single team to force you to go to the sports book.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the place we're staying, it's a timeshare, and it's not a casino. It's family friendly. There's no gambling there, but it's really cool. It's very very like Polynesian themed. That's why I got my Martin Denny Quiet Village record back
there.
Here.
There we go.
So it's very Tahitian and Polynesian themed. So no sports book there, So I'm just going to have to listen to the games on the radio while I'm sitting by the pool. Tough life. I think I can
that's
pull it off.
actually that actually is very attractive because we're so focused on television and Twitter and all that stuff. It's kind of a little bit of a throwback to how we used to watch the games or used to pay attention to the games when we were a kid, because the Giants were on KTVU when we were growing up in the Bay Area, and they would only show road games on TV. Any home games was blacked out, or as we got a little bit older, you had to have like a pay for special Giants Vision cable package, and our parents were like, "What are you kidding? There's no possible way we're getting."
We didn't even have that option because we didn't even have cable in our neighborhood. In the Bay Area, we didn't have cable. In Santa Clara, I don't understand. So
That's ridiculous.
We had nothing until 95 when my dad ponied up for the DirecTV HughesNet at the time is what it was called. Yeah. Then I started getting whatever it was. What was it at that time in the 90s? The Giants channel. It was the red, white, and blue bar logo.
There was like Sports Channel. There was
maybe it was. I think it was Sports Channel. Yeah, Sports Channel Bay Area or Sports Channel West or something like that.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're gonna get faked out a bunch of times by John Miller.
Always do.
Getting super excited about something that just is sort of a normal kind of play, but he does it in such like a charming way that it's fun. Though, I think I've told this story before. We went to see Luciano play last year, and it was so we're at the San Jose Giants game, and then coming home listening to Giants Dodgers, and Miller is going insane, so much so that I'm not exactly sure what's happening. I know that it's important, but it's like he's waiting for, like, and that's some of what baseball is today too, is he's waiting for the umpires to kind of convene and make sure that they're getting the call right. And it was just, I was just like, what happened? I can't breathe. And then he would say it. So you're going to,
and that was the check swing game, right?
I think so.
The check swing game in LA against the Dodgers. I think I was coming home from Hawaii and I had landed and I looked at the score and I didn't pay attention. I thought that was, I was, you look at the frames when you look at the score on the MLB app, and I thought I was looking at the ninth inning because I was bleary eyed. I was tired. And I was like, oh man, we lost 3-2 or whatever. And that's the game we ended up winning 5-3. So I didn't even pay attention to the ninth because I thought the ball game was over. So I could have popped it on and been with you on that and been like, well, yeah, what's going on? I have no idea.
we're totally burying the lead here because the Giants and the Dodgers are in the middle of their series. But we're recording this a day early. So those of you listening on the podcast, this is pre-Giants-Dodgers game 3. We have our coffee mugs here, on a Sunday, early afternoon. And so let's talk about games 1 and 2, because I don't know how you felt after the Rockies series, in which they just played some of the worst defensive baseball that you could play in baseball today. And actually, you know what? I'll take that back, because there's a lot of average defense in baseball today. And part of the reason is because, much like what the Giants do, a lot of the teams, they prioritize the offense. They prioritize the righty-lefty, lefty-righty stuff. And often that leaves you at a disadvantage defensively, especially later in the game. And I don't know, who was I listening to? I think it was Baggs and Brisby. And they were saying, the National League DH being in play this year, they didn't say it was a curse, but it was sort of a curse in that the Giants just decided, oh, we're just going to have 6 DHs.
Yeah.
and so, they are really deprioritizing defense, but in a sense, it's just kind of the make of their team. And so after that Rocky series, gosh, that last game with Logan Webb, and thankful for Logan Webb, because, in a previous generation, or maybe an older pitcher, or maybe someone in a contract year could have thrown a fit after the defense that was played behind him. And I found it interesting that probably the GOAT defensively, and I'm not talking the greatest of all time GOAT, I'm talking about the original iteration of GOAT, was Thairo Estrada. And he had a really up and down defensive week because I think he made another error in one of the Dodgers games, but then bounces back, gets the double play to end the inning in a really stressful inning, and then makes a play on Bellinger to end the game, sliding to his left, picking up that ball and throwing him out. So,
because he made an error the inning before that allowed a run. That allowed a run, and then you got runners, and he could have probably maybe turned a double play on that ball. It was hard hit. He had a range to his left, and as we know, range is like a 4-letter word for Giants defenders right now. It's awful. But that's so he had a range to his left. Could have picked it up, made an easy play at first, gotten an out. You have a runner at second with one out. And then when the double happens, 1 run scores, the whole inning changes. Luckily, the Giants still were able to pull it off. But then he comes back and makes that play. When the ball was hit to him from Bellinger off the bat in the 9th inning as the final out last night, I clenched everything because oh my God. Then he goes and makes a fantastic play, throws it from almost the seat of his pants, a strike to first to get the out. And I'm like, an anomaly. It's just a back and forth. You don't know with this guy sometimes.
Yeah. And I was watching the game. I was at a graduation party for my little cousin who she graduated from high school, and then she decided that she's going to Chapman University in Southern California. She's going to study business and sports marketing. And I was I was kind of following the game just through the app. And you think, I was kind of jokingly complaining about John Miller leaving me hanging. So they're trying to give the results as quickly as they can. And, the balls and strikes are pretty quick. Like, it's just a ball, strike. You sort of see where the ball lands. Then they go ball in play. And you have to wait like 45 seconds.
That is the longest
figure out what
wait.
happened.
Yes. Oh man, I have a hard time watching games on that because yes, when the in play happens, it says in play, and then sometimes does it say in play no outs?
Yeah, and then in play no outs, in play runs, and so a run was scored, but you don't know exactly how. That was so the Bellinger ground rule double. That was one where I was waiting forever, and all I saw was in play run. And then parentheses S. So I was like, does that mean 1 run, 2 runs? Like, what's going on here? And they just left me hanging. But yeah, that's a hard way to watch a game for sure. I think it's better if you want to check balls and strikes. You kind of use it as like a compliment to watching it on TV. You can do it that way to see how far did that miss or whatever. But yeah,
I like to do that. Yeah. But you can't do that if you're watching a streaming service. Like, you watch your games on Hulu, right?
Yes.
And if I'm watching them on the NBC Sports Bay Area app on my phone, I can't also have that up because it's a good like 30 to 45 seconds ahead, sometimes like a minute.
Right.
So if you're watching TV and you want I want the miles per hour, I want the location, I want everything. That's an awesome way to watch a game. It is really fun.
Yeah. So Giants win the game on Friday. Jacob Junis, who, if you look into the deeper analytics, he's really just a 1-pitch pitcher right now. He's got a dominant slider, and everything else is just sort of average, but he battles, and he's, we talked about this last week. He's been one of their most valuable players. And then he goes out with a grade 2 hamstring pull. And, these injuries that these Giants players are having, you and I know these injuries very well. Because essentially they are old person injuries.
Yeah.
They are, young players don't have Tommy La Stella back tightness, right? They don't have Brandon Crawford quadriceps tightness. Like it's mostly these injuries where you pile on the innings played and your body just gets dinged up. I mean, we could even go further. Longoria hamstring. Who there was another, who's the other player that has is Longoria, Junis, and maybe one other person who had a hamstring issue. It was Lamont Wade, who's not even back yet. He was trying to get back to play in AAA, and they had to stall him because his hamstring was tight. So, like all of these injuries that they're not like, oh, broken bones, 60-day DL or whatever, where you're like, okay, at least we can plan for that. Now with these day-to-day injuries, Kapler's like throwing out guys, and I don't know what they do at catcher because Casale hamstring. He was dealing with a hamstring in the crouch yesterday. So much so
brutal
that they had him safety squeeze with two strikes because they just didn't want him to swing and possibly hurt himself. So all of these little dinged injuries, they're just adding up to they don't really have a healthy roster right now. And it is because of the age of the roster more than anything else. And it's just kind of this bad luck, all this stuff happening at once. Now, the warmer weather, that stuff should help a lot of these kinds of injuries, but it hasn't happened yet. And I don't know. I'm a little worried about what they do because they may have to make a decision to actually put someone on the DL just so they can bring up a healthy player. Elliot Ramos came up yesterday. He hit third against Kershaw. He's still not hitting well in AAA, but it's a body whose options have already started. They can bring him up and take him back a couple more times this year, so they had to go that route. But yeah, it's just a crazy roster dance that they're doing, and I'm sure in some weird way, Zadie's like, oh, I love doing this.
Yeah.
He's like the evil scientist in that way. But still, when you're looking at the lineups that they're throwing out, and I'll find the lineup for today because it's just as crazy as it's been. But yeah, what do you think about all this stuff with the injuries and the roster? And it just looks like something they're going to have to pull the trigger on something, or else they're not going to have enough healthy bodies.
Yeah, it's hard to swallow right now. It's easier to swallow that it's June. I think Junis's injury, it sounds like it might be kind of a long one. And then Casale on top of it yesterday, we're all watching the game and we're sitting here going, oh, I get, safety squeeze on, surprise. And then he does it 2 or 3 more times. And you're like, it's not a surprise anymore. What's going on? I don't, how are you going to get that runner home from third on something like that when everybody's expecting it? And then and then the third pitch that he goes to bunt at, he's got his hand on the bat, his right hand, and the ball hits him square on the hand. Doesn't even touch the bat or anything, but because he squared around, it's a strike. And it was strike 3 because he fouled it off his hand, didn't even touch the bat. So when it hit his hand, he's in the dugout throwing his gloves in the air. He's pissed off. But yeah, it's a little bit scary. We kind of dodged a lot of these bullets last year. We had some, Belt gets hurt at the end of the season. We had other injuries during the season, but I can't remember the last time we've had this many small, weird, what do they call it? Soft body injuries, soft injury as opposed to bones and stuff like that. Soft tissue injuries. I don't remember this many of them all at once happening to the Giants. It's been many years. And that's what the Giants have always prided themselves on. Zadie has always said, we have a very deep 40 man. If we can improve the 40th man on our 40-man roster, we're going to do it. It's really being tested right now. And like you said, Zadie's having a good time and he's like, oh yeah, this is what I don't think Kapler's having a good time right now. Cause did you find that lineup for today? It's a fun one.
Yes. So,
all right.
They're facing Urias, who is really hard on them.
Mm-hmm.
They do not hit him very well. Yeah. In normal instances, we would just see nothing but right-handers and maybe Brandon Crawford. But because of the injuries, they do start Luis Gonzalez at DH in the 9-hole. He's the highest average hitter on their team, but because of this lefty-righty dance that they do, he's hitting 9th.
And that
So
allows them to then, by the time you get to possibly a right-handed reliever, maybe he's batting third or fourth in that coming inning
Sure.
and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah, you don't want to expose him to Urias too many times. Although he did get a nice knock off of Kershaw yesterday.
Yeah.
So hey,
That worked. It worked. You know,
Yeah.
it was Estrada going deep, and then Gonzalez with the base hit. That was really the kind of the runs, because I think they got their third run on like some fluky wild pitch that maybe hit Brandon Crawford, and he swung, and it was like weird.
It definitely hit him. But who are we to say, right? I love that Roberts came out. I mean, you could see him mouthing it. He says, you know, he swung. If that ball hit his foot, dead ball, runner goes back to third.
Yeah.
So they don't get a run out of the whole situation.
You know, I'm not
know.
too sympathetic towards check swing stuff with the Dodgers.
No,
They
not
can go to
anymore.
hell with that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The only way we can really even it out is if it wins us a series in October against the Dodgers.
Yes,
I mean, right
yes.
now the people go, "Oh, we're kind of even with it." No, we'll never be even for that. The stakes aren't the same right now.
So we have Slater in center hitting leadoff, Ruff at first base, and man, what a game for him on Friday. That was so fun
Yeah.
to watch. 3 hits,
Absolutely.
2 bombs, and he snaked one. It was I think it's a Walker Buehler. I want to say it was a slider, like a sharp slider on the inside part of the plate, and he just the quickest hands, pulled his hands inside and hit that thing out. Yastrzemski, you know, he's got to hit lefty. He's hitting third here.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be. I expect
all they have
a
to
tough
do is
game
throw
from
him a
Mike.
slider.
Yeah.
Throw him sliders all day.
Wilmer Flores hitting fourth at third. Estrada hitting fifth at second. Crawford hitting sixth. You know, he's kind of dinged up still. I think there are some defensive metrics that do not favor him very well that I think the Giants would like to say is probably because he's playing with an injury or two. And then Ramos in left, so he gets another start against a lefty. The newest addition to this team, and we'll talk about him in one of the later last segment probably. Austin Wynns is hitting 8th and his 667 batting average for the Giants. And then, like I said, Gonzalez hitting 9th. So they have 3 lefties against Urias, and it's not what they would generally do, but they're just so hamstrung. Nice little play on words there.
Yeah,
that they have to.
hamstrung.
Now, on the other hand, I think, you know, Rodon, he has been okay of late, not great like he was. I think this is the kind of the series that they wanted, they need him in. The Dodgers themselves, they only have Cody Bellinger and Freddie Freeman as left-handed hitters in the lineup. So, you know, he's gonna. This is the series that you sort of pick somebody, you pay him the money for this kind of game. I think the Dodgers beat him earlier in the season in that first 2-gamer in LA. So this is a nice little test for him to see. But, you know, on the other hand, just based on this Giants lineup, like, I can't imagine that they're like, oh, we're putting 5 on the board today. I think they're going to probably play this game like it's going to be a very close game. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, we could be in for another bullpen tightrope walking game. You know, Mac Cheese wasn't used yesterday. Tyler Rogers was, but he could throw 5 innings today if he needed to. You know how it goes. But looking at Rodon, his last start against the Dodgers was May 3rd. I think that was like it was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's like it's in the middle of the week.
Yeah, he went 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earnies, 2 walks, and only 3 strikeouts. And that's when he was striking out like, you know, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys a game.
Yeah.
Then that game, he only struck out 3. Then he comes back the next game against Colorado and strikes out 12. So a little bit of a vengeance in the next game. But I don't know if you remember, but that was the game where the only mistake he made the entire game was giving up that single. And I think it was Chris Taylor. I can't remember exactly, but he had just sailed slider, didn't have a grip on it, or his curveball, and just sailed it. and it was a 3-2 count, and he had to come in. There were 2 outs, and he threw a strike low in the zone, and I think everybody in the ballpark knew that a strike was, or that a fastball was coming. So he threw a fastball because he didn't have a grip on the slider, and just knocked it into right center field for a 2-run hit. And that was pretty much it. I think the Giants lost that game like 3-0 or 3-1.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that that we should even be alarmed at is he's having to go deeper into accounts because he's not getting the same swings and misses earlier as he was earlier in the season. And I don't know if that is to be expected. Like, I'm not sure what the expectation is on the Giants end. Is like, oh, this pitch is the plus pitch, and these guys are fouling it off. So I don't know if it's location. I don't know if he's tipping stuff. I don't know if he's just being predictable. It could be a bunch of things, or it could just be, maybe maybe there's a tick mile per hour slower than usual, or maybe the movement is a little bit off. So whatever it is, the guy's going to battle, and he's going to battle hard, and he's a fighter, and he's going to be in these games. It's just, we sort of take it for granted how good he was in those first few starts of the season, where it's like, oh, this guy's unhittable. He's going to throw no hitter this season.
Well, yeah, and he didn't pitch a full season last year, and then you had 2020. So he was still kind of working up to strength. Had that injury last year, but he did get got a taste of the rivalry.
Yeah.
So today, I think going in a Sunday afternoon game, probably a packed house, rocking pretty good at home. This is his first Giant Dodger game at home on a Sunday afternoon to secure a 3-game sweep against the Dodgers. I think the adrenaline's going to be there. I wouldn't be shocked in the first batter or two if we see 102.
I thought you were going to say we see a ball go into the backstop.
Well, and that may be 102 ball into the backstop. You never know. So, but those first couple of starts, I'd say 5 or 6 starts, he was throwing that high fastball and getting guys at like 101. So I think we could see 102 today in the first couple of batters. He's going to be jacked. I mean, it's going to be very exciting. The place is going to be rocking today. Last night was such a great game. I hope there's no fan hangover today.
Yeah.
It is the celebration, the 10-year anniversary of Matt Kane's perfect game.
Yes.
So
is he going to be? Is he supposed to be there?
He's supposed to be there. And I think Baggerly tweeted today that there's also a special coming out where Matt Kane watches the game.
It's right before the game. Yeah, it's right before the game with Pavlovich on NBC Sports Bay Area. By the way,
very cool.
I thought it was going to be a bobblehead, but they keep saying bobble card. What is a bobble card?
So if you look at it, let me see if I could find a picture of it again. But it's a bobblehead with a card, like a baseball card background.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Here we go. Go to images and see here. Yeah. So it's this, it's like a bobblehead on a stand. It's already on eBay for $45. Jeez. People are quick, man.
Okay, I think I found it. Let's see if I can share it to the video, at least to the video folks.
All right, yeah.
Matt Kane. Yeah. So it's like a stand-up thing, and just the head kind of looks like a gravestone in this.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a scary image. It's not the best looking Matt Kane face, but honestly, show me a bobblehead where the guy really looks like him.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got this one here. I've got Willie Mays, right?
Yeah.
So that, making the overhead, that looks like Willie, right?
It looks like a young Willie Mays, like if Willie Mays was like 13 years old.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's a good one. But they're hard to find really good ones, but that one's a little scary. I think they could have done a little bit better for Matt Kane, but we'll take it.
So, that's going to be in the air. And so I think Rodon, not that he cares. He's not a Giants fan. He didn't live that. But, just the fact that it's like, oh, wow, like there's the way that the Giants celebrate achievements is kind of cool. What are your memories of that game, by the way?
Oh man, let's see. Let's put some kids' ages on this. Kids were
that's exactly what I was doing right now in my head.
Yeah, you kind of have to figure that out because the kids were 5 and 3. So I remember, around that time was when I would watch a Giants game, start with it, and then it was the bedtime routine. Like, hey, did you brush your teeth? All right, let's go help you out. 3-year-old, let me help you out. Brush your teeth, blah, blah, blah. Let's go read books. Might not have had a DVR, might not have been able to pause stuff from what I remember. Then I get a text or a call from Harveen, our buddy Harveen. He goes, what about this game, man? Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so we did have DVR. I paused it. I'm going to come back to it.
Yeah.
Matt Kane's pitching insane. I'm going to pause it. So I come back to it. And I'm watching the game. And then I get the text. Perfect game. Awesome. I'm still like 2 innings away at that point. So I'm like, I forgot to mute my phone or turn it off or do whatever. But still, it was very exciting to watch because I think in the last couple of innings is where the Gregor Blanco catch happens.
Yes.
And then the Joaquin the Dream Arias backing up on the ground ball to third, where he's and then he looks at it surprised that he got the ball. I'm like,
every time I've ever backed up on a ground ball, it just eats me up. And then
yeah, because you've got to have you got to have a Sean Dunston arm then to get it from there to first to save the perfect game. I mean, it's not just like to just get the out; it's to save the perfect game. So those are my memories from it. It was pretty exciting. I remember watching the celebration and everything afterwards. And the kids were so small. I think that might have been asleep at that point. So it was the silent celebration.
So my boys would have been, let's see, 2012. So we're talking 12 and 10. So they were very aware about what was happening. Now, they probably didn't know like how rare it was for a perfect game, but so I remember we had the couch and then we had the chair, and I was kind of working at the same time during the game, and they weren't really paying attention until it started to get deeper in the game. And so I'm working, and then he's like, oh, wow, he's got this perfect game. So then they both came down, and especially Brian, he made, he was on the couch, and we're like, okay, we can't move out of our spots, and we're watching it. And then JJ's kind of like, I think he was like on the stairs, because the way that the stairs were, you could literally see the TV from the stairs. So he's like sitting on the stairs, and then the whole thing happens, and they both were able to stay up, because otherwise it was a school night, I think, and they would have had to be in bed by 9 or something. But that game probably didn't finish until 9:30, a little bit closer to 10, so they were able to stay up and watch it. And I remember we were all pretty jazzed about it. And it's like one of those things where I don't know if this is a learned behavior. I would imagine it is, because we sort of grew up playing baseball where you don't mention the no-hitter, you don't mention the perfect game, you just kind of like, well, everyone knows, but you don't want to jinx it, right? Yeah. And so we're all just kind of looking at each other going like, it's pretty important. And then, so they were into that part of it where you don't jinx it. You just kind of watch. You can't like take it for granted. And then, when it happens, then you just explode and go crazy. So,
yeah, we've been lucky as Giants fans the last, I'd say 13, 14 years to get, some no-hitters, a perfect game, 3 World Series championships, an MVP. It's just, we've been really, really blessed. So it's so fun when these things come up, but then it makes you realize, when they go, hey, it's this year, they're going to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. 10 years. Where did the 10 years go, man? And it just gets you 10 years older every time you hear something like that. And
so the Giants didn't even have a no-hitter forever, for our entire childhood until Jonathan Sanchez. And you remember the Jonathan Sanchez game was 2009. Mm-hmm. I was on a date, I think, at a bowling alley of all places. And so the person who I was with, she didn't realize that I was paying attention to the game. And I wasn't really paying attention to the game, except when she bowled, because when she bowled, she was like the turtle bowler. It was the slowest process. So It was the walk up to the lane, grab the ball. The ball was going, 2 miles an hour down the thing. And so there was a good 60 seconds of time where I could just watch the game while she was bowling. And then I'd
That's
kind of have to
awesome.
bounce back. But I remember watching it there. When he got the no-hitter there. And then the Kane game, and then there was 2 Lincecum ones, right? Like
Yeah.
13 and 14. There was the Chris Stratton one
Chris Stratton.
when he was there. Well, how was there? Were there others?
I think that was it. And then Matt Kane. And of course you remember the name of the last guy who threw a no-hitter because we heard about it growing up almost every single day when a Giants pitcher got to the 5th inning with a no-hitter. We heard the name John the Count Montefusco because he was the last one to throw a no-hitter until then. I was at Candlestick 97. Yeah, it might have been 97.
Was this a Mark Gardner game?
No, this was the William Vanlandingham versus Kevin Brown game when Kevin Brown was pitching for
I remember
the Marlins.
This game.
Yeah, and so I was at that game with our buddy Bob Weinerth, who was the sports director at KSJS. He and I decided one day, I think we had a low load of classes on an afternoon at San Jose State. And we said, hey, let's just drive up to Candlestick. I mean, the Giants are playing the Marlins, afternoon game. Let's go check it out. And they went toe to toe, no hitter through like 5 innings. But I think Vanlandingham had walked like 6 batters. So he was working around a lot of base runners for having a no hitter going through 5 or 6 innings. And Kevin Brown, this is pre-steroid Kevin Brown, I think. Because he wasn't, I mean, his shoulders weren't out to here. They were like double the size of mine. And he ended up throwing the no-hitter. And of course, baseball fans, Giants fans are also baseball fans. We were on our feet.
Yeah.
We were hoping the Giants would break it up. But also it was kind of cool because you're like, well, we're here for history too. So this is going to be a historic event. So that was a pretty cool game. But yeah, I think, did you happen to find a list of Giants no-hitters? I think that was it. I think it was the 2 Lincecum, Stratton, Sanchez, and then the perfect game by Kane.
So, you just brought this game up, but June 10th, so we're in June 12th, 1997. So you are you are right on the money with that. And through 6 innings, neither team had recorded a hit. Brown had the perfect game going, but Vanlandingham had not allowed a hit either. Then Vanlandingham allowed a run on a 5th inning balk. So he actually allowed a run before he allowed a hit. And then in the 7th, the Marlins broke up the no-hitter. Charles Johnson hit a 2-run jack. And it
not
was,
that Charles Johnson.
No, not that Charles Johnson. 3-0 at that point. And then Kevin Brown. I remember Kevin Brown very much because he would destroy the Giants. Like it was like so bad.
Yes.
He would just kill the Giants every time. All right.
Yeah. And, we forgot one. We forgot poor Chris Heston in 2015. Through a no-hitter for the Giants.
That's yes. Chris,
that's one.
What is that guy doing now?
I don't even know, but I think he bounced around, went to Seattle. I think we got him back in the minor league system. And
so Chris Heston, I said Chris Stratton. That's the one that I screwed up the last name. It was Chris Heston.
Oh, it
not
is
Chris
okay.
Stratton. Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
So we had them all. I just had the wrong last name.
Yeah. So in that game, that was June 9th, 2015. A lot of June. We got June and July for all the no hitters. Jonathan Sanchez was July 10. Matt Kane, June 13 today. Lincecum July 13, Lincecum June 25th, Chris Heston June 9th. So if it's not June or July, we're not throwing a no-hitter. So
well,
our window is open right now.
Let's go right now. Rodon against the Dodgers. What would be sweeter?
Oh God. Could you imagine ending this crazy series on a sweep and a no-hitter by Rodon?
Yeah.
Did we just jinx it already? And the game hasn't even started. We jinxed it.
I know. Let's definitely move on. So, Giants had some really not only good luck yesterday, but just ultimately good timing. And I feel like the Dodgers would look at yesterday's game and go like, how did we lose? Like they out hit the Giants 2-1, I think.
Yeah.
But Friday, the Giants just outright outplayed them, and the Dodgers had one of their best pitchers out there, maybe even their best pitcher, and he's hurt now. It looks like he's something wrong with his elbow, and he's going to be out for a little while. So that's a bummer for Dodgers right there, because he's a young dude still, and even though the sight of his gangly body and face reminds me so much of Oral Hershiser that I kind of cringe whenever I see him.
Yeah.
Still, he's a stud, and so that's a big thing for them to miss him.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and you knew it was going to happen because he's on my fantasy team.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah, so if I have somebody on my fantasy team, they are going to get hurt pretty badly at some point. So yeah.
All right, so we kind of talked a little bit about the Rockies series. I guess the one, the fun game was the one that went into extra innings, and Charlie Blackmon kind of ran over the ball and allowed us to score in the 10th. But those other two games those games are frustrating. We mentioned the error one, the one where the defense just let Logan Webb down, but there was the one the day before, or 2 days before, where I was watching the recap earlier today, and the Rockies announcers were like, I think that's the most complete game the team has played the entire year. And I was like, of course it's against the Giants, because, that's just kind of how the season has been. Like, I feel like some of these teams that are not great, like the Reds and, the Rockies, it's like, oh yeah, they, for whatever reason, they find a way to put it together against the Giants, which doesn't bode well for next week, because Kansas City comes into town. And if you go by, again, my favorite metric, which is run differential, they are the second worst team in baseball in run differential. They're a -85. Only the Pittsburgh Pirates are worse with a -89. When it comes to actual record and winning percentage, they are the third worst team in baseball, just behind Oakland. Actually, Oakland and Kansas City are tied in winning percentage. Oh, no. So sorry. It's actually, no, that's right. Yeah, it's Cincinnati and Oakland, and then it is Kansas City. So this tells me that Kansas City is going to come into town. They're going to get revenge for the 2014 World Series, and they're going to play the best baseball of the year so far for them against the Giants.
Luckily, the only person I think left from that team is Salvador Perez, the catcher. So are you saying he's going to have 3-4 home run games?
Yeah,
he's going to hit 12 home runs against them.
He's gonna blast a couple for sure. But
yeah, it is a little bit scary anytime. I mean, we just saw what happened in the Colorado series. Anytime a team comes in who's not doing too well, it's, plus we always talk about too, this is a big series against the Dodgers. I know people tried to downplay it a little bit. I saw a couple articles where they kind of tried to downplay it, and I think I heard a podcast where somebody tried to downplay it a little bit too and said, oh, it's only June, and there's some more important games coming. No, it's Giants Dodgers, man. And the Giants were 6.5 games back, right? Or I think 7.5 when the series started, and they won 2, and now they're 5.5 games back.
No, 4. They're 4.5. It started.
Okay, so they started at 6.5.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's huge. If the Giants can get to 3.5 games back, that's huge. So do you have that letdown after the series when Kansas City comes into town, and especially because it's a Monday night, although it's a sellout. Monday night's a sellout. And then you have a Tuesday night game, and then you have a Wednesday afternoon game. So, and you're hurting pretty bad right now, and teams are coming into town.
And surprisingly, the Giants are the same home and away. They have the same exact record, home and away, 16-13. So, I mean, that's a really good away record, but the home record is kind of disappointing, I think. And it's also funny because the two teams above them, the Dodgers and the Padres, also have better away records than home records. So there's something going on in this division. It could be that some of the harder teams are coming into their parks. It could be something as simple as that. But so yeah, the Giants definitely need to hold court here. The Royals come into town. They need to hold court. They need to take 2 out of 3 minimum against a team like that. And then they go to Pittsburgh. So I mentioned the worst team in run differential. They go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a little bit better at home than they are away. And, it's another one. You got to take 2 out of 3 in both of these series to take advantage of these bad teams because, we're talking about essentially everybody has a chance who's, going to be 500 going into August or whatever, because there's 3 wild card teams. So the Giants are going to be competing against the Padres. They're going to be competing against the Braves, who've won 10 straight. They're going to be competing against Philadelphia, who's won 9 straight. Miami's not that far. They've won 5 straight. The entire NL East is on fire right now. Only the Mets, who are the best team in the East, are kind of struggling a little bit. And then, you're going to be going up against Milwaukee and St. Louis. Those 2 teams are going to have a tug of war for that division. So, those are all the teams that are going to be in the mix. And I don't know, what did I mention? 7 teams or whatever. The Giants got to be in the top 3 of those 7 teams. And if you're going to lose to the Rockies and you're going to lose to the Reds, you are killing yourself when it comes to late in the season, where you're going to need a couple of games here and there. And you're going to go like, oh gosh, remember that series where we went to Cincinnati and we just played like crap? Like that, they got to eat up some of these teams.
Yeah, you could play like crap, but you got to win the series.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the bottom line, especially when you're at home against the Colorado Rockies. And if it weren't for the defense, just the absolutely awful defense that we talked about on the last show, and I think Baggerly wrote a really good article that you sent me about how bad the defense is right now. It's bad. And it almost, blew another game yesterday in a 3-2 Dodgers win over the Dodgers. They almost blew the game because of defense yesterday. So those games they're just going to continue to bite you. You've got to limit mistakes. You almost have to play perfect defensive baseball right now because you have so many guys who are hurt. Bullpen's starting to kind of turn things around, but again, the bullpen goes the way of the defense. Unless it's yesterday's game where Harleen Garcia, Alvarez, and Camilo Doval were all having a hard time finding the strike zone. I mean, I swear for all 3 of those pitchers, it was like 2-0. They might as well just put 2-0 on the scoreboard before the guy even stepped into the box because they could not find the strike zone until like the 3rd or 4th pitch. So you really got to limit that. And going forward, you got a lot of tough teams coming up. The All-Star break is going to be a welcome one for the Giants because they're going to need to get healthy. It's a couple extra days, although it's a shorter one this year because we're banged up. So why wouldn't it be? It's a tough road going forward, but you've got to win series against teams that you should be winning series against.
All right, let's talk about the last thing on our list, which is Joey Bart being sent down. He was sent down shortly after we recorded our last podcast. Just quickly give you some numbers. I was comparing his 2022 season to his 2020 season, and there's a very similar amount of games played and plate appearances and at bats. The only thing he's done better, or two things he's done better in 2022 than 2020, is the home run ball and walks. He had 15 walks to 3 walks in 2020, and 4 home runs to no home runs. But every other thing, he hit better. He hit 233 in that 2020 season versus 156 this year. The slugging was slightly higher. Obviously the OPS was slightly higher. More extra base hits. He only had 1 non-home run extra base hit this season, and he had 7 extra base hits that were non-homers in 2020. So I kind of wonder, you would think that based off of his experience in 2020 and then just more repetitions in AAA that he comes in and he performs better, but he performed a little bit worse in some major categories. And I kind of wonder, what is the reason for that? Could be pressure. He's the guy. the Buster Posey shadow, all of those things. But I wonder if it's like, oh, because the Giants won 107 games, these teams are like, where are the outs? Where are we going to get the outs? And then they look at tape of Joey Bart and go, okay, we know how to pitch this guy. Like we're just going to go. And I wonder if it's something like that, but otherwise it's just like, wow, it was quite a disappointment, I think, for most Giants fans, not just to see him go down, but just the decision is like, okay, we finally have to do this. We didn't want to do this, but now we have to do this because the kid is just he's going to go into a tailspin even further if we don't do something.
Well, the funny thing too is leading up to this week when he got sent down, I think most podcasts we listen to, most articles we read, even us ourselves said he's not going anywhere. He's riding this season out. He's going to take his lumps. And then, reading another article this morning, pretty much as AD said, look, we'd rather that's one place where we can improve production. And so we're going to do it right now. And then we're looking to then get an improved, much better Joey Bart, later on in the season versus right now trying to let him just ride this thing out, because there comes a point where you're so deep in the hole, you're swinging at pitches that are way out of the strike zone. Baseball's a mental game. Once you get into that hole, it is really, really, really difficult to get out of it unless you have some success. And there hasn't been those little bright spots. I mean, it was his last home run against Albert Pujols in the ninth inning,
lob balls.
of a blowout game. I mean, and that was in St. Louis. So how long ago was that?
Yeah.
So when you look at that stuff, where's the success been to build on? You just don't have that. So how do you get that? You go back down to AAA where you were successful last season. You hit a couple home runs, start throwing some runners out, getting some singles, hitting the ball hard, going the other way with the baseball, and start to get that success and build that up. And then when you get back to the majors, you say, okay, now I remember what success is like.
Right.
Looking at his numbers, I just punched up on Fangraphs all the catchers in the league with 90 or more plate appearances, and he's number one in walk percentage of all of the catchers in Major League Baseball, with 90 or more plate appearances at 13.9%. He's also number one, or dead last, however you want to call it, in strikeout percentage at 45.4%. Jorge Alfaro is the next one behind him at 38.5%. And then Mike Zunino, 37.4%. So, I mean, there are catchers who are worse than Joey Bart in the majors. But none of those catchers were the number 2 overall pick. So that's where the concern comes in. And I think that's where they want to just invest the extra time. I keep seeing Joey Bart's name come up in trade talks.
The lowest possible value that he has right now.
Yeah, this is selling on the dip. I mean, this is selling somebody who is very, very low stock right now. You're not going to get anything in return. So you're going to continue. You have control. I mean, you have him. He's only been in the league for a couple of years. So you have control. You've got 3 more years of control probably. Invest in him. Invest in that time. As long as he's in the right mindset, right frame of mind, he can be successful. Reading that article by Grant Brisbee about catchers and how that's like catching lightning in a bottle. Wow,
yeah.
You really, really do appreciate what we had in Buster Posey, but you also have to realize we may never, ever, ever have that again at that position. So if Joey Bart can hit 230 with an OPS of 700, 800, you will take, with good defense, you will take that in a heartbeat, and you will sign him to a 10-year deal, because that's hard to replicate. It's the defense. The defense is still there. Just burn PitchCom though. That's it's such a nightmare. I wish we could just go back to some sort of signs and something a little more protective of sign stealing, some better signs. But I don't know.
those poor guys yesterday. Like it's only in
God.
Spanish, and then they
Yeah,
can't, like,
and then
out.
Duvall had to cover his ear, and then he looked down. Oops, I hit my mic. He looked down when he's when he's trying to listen, and there's a very fast runner at third. And I'm thinking, why hasn't this guy gone home yet, or at least tried to force a balk? Because there's no time called. He's still on the mound. His foot's still on the rubber. But I digress. Joey Bart is going to be better, and I said this last week. He's going to be better down the stretch, rest of the season, than he was the first part of the season. He just needs some time. He needs a mental health break from the situation he's in right now.
Yeah. So I pulled this up. This is Roger Munter, who we had on this show, the Substack There Are Giants. And so he pulled up some numbers because this isn't just a Joey Bart problem. This is a young player who should be of some value in the majors, who was also a high draft pick. So you see Adley Rutschman, who, he very heavily lauded. Now he doesn't have the time. He's only got 61 plate appearances versus what Bart had. But yeah, he's struggling as well. Bobby Witt Jr. actually has 7 jacks, so there's value from the power there, but the average is down 25% K rate. Spencer Torkelson, I imagine the fan base probably thinks of him a little bit, kind of how the Giants think of Bart, in that, wow, is this guy ever going to hit? He's got the 4 home runs, but and then Kelenic, they had to send him back down, so he also got sent back down with Bart. So this is not just a Joey Bart problem. This is a problem with other prospects, and I'm waiting for the Eno Saris article to tell us why. Like, what is the trend as to why these young players who are heavily lauded, and then you see the vet players like a Luis Gonzalez come in, who's been able to produce immediately, right? Like he's been in the minors for a long time. I don't know how high he was on the White Sox prospect list, but when they DFA'd him and the Giants were able to pick him up or trade for him essentially. But then it's the Yasmanian devil. I think they said he spent like 5 years in Double-A or something crazy like that. So it's those guys are able to produce, and then you got the blue chippers, the guys who you've invested so much money in for the for so far, and you have very little to show. Now there's another thing that Roger had written. I think he said Bart, Patrick Bailey, Hunter Bishop, and there was one other player who I'm not thinking of, but he was basically saying, those guys, because they get big signing bonuses when they come, they actually have a salary, even though they're in the minors. The Giants he said the Giants had invested something like $20 million into these guys to become at the next level, and have very little to show for it at this point. But may have to play the long game a little bit with Bishop and with Bailey. And again, the one thing that maybe has already written about, I don't know, I need to check out his stuff, but the lost season of 2020, right? For some of these guys. Now, Bart was actually in the bigs. He's probably there a little bit early. That could have, changed some of his just the way that they wanted to bring him up. That could be something. But yeah, there was the lost season of 2020 for these minor leaguers who didn't have a season. They basically threw that one away.
Yeah, and when you look at that list of names that you put up too, those are all big names. I mean, if you're collecting baseball cards, those are big names. Those are the ones you're going to want to get. Joey Bart has a higher WRC. What is it? Plus WRC? I can never remember. WRC plus. He has a higher at 81 than 2 of the 4 guys on that list.
Yep.
But again, it's more so. We've talked about it before. So baseball is, 70% failure rate at the plate.
Yeah.
And you're having a successful season. So you've got to learn how to deal with failing 70% of the time and still being happy with your production, confident in your production. And I think that's the big thing, the confidence. But when you're handling a position like catcher, like Adley Rutschman is also, you're dealing with the fact that you're scuffling at the plate. How does that translate when you're behind the dish and you're handling a Giants pitching staff that, the starters are going 5 innings, 6+ innings, and then you're dealing with 3 or 4 relievers the rest of the way. Is your head in the game like Casale had to do yesterday with a bum hamstring? He had to handle that reliever core that came in and just wasn't throwing strikes. So I think that's part of the Bart send down as well. And they also found somebody in Austin Wins who, things can kind of be a stopgap until Bart gets right. I mean, Wins is a guy in the minors this year who walked way more than he struck out, and that's on a Giants resume. That's they look at that and they go, "Oh, you're hired. I don't care."
Yeah,
where you
exactly.
play." You could be our 7th DH, like we talked about earlier. We'll take it.
Yeah. All right, so we're done here. We'll be back. When are you coming back from vacation? Do I need to get a co-host for next week, or not next week, but the week after?
Yeah, we could do a Tuesday show. I get back on that Monday, so we could go Tuesday night, the 21st.
Perfect.
That'd be a good one.
Perfect. Yeah. No, it'd be great. Then we can hear about your trip. Hope you guys have a great time, and
thank you.
I hope you all guys also have a lot of sunscreen.
Oh,
because
yes.
It's going to be, my wife is very fair skinned. And so I know how she has to lather herself up. And I look at I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I should probably put on sunscreen.
Yeah, no, we burn easily. A couple of us don't, a couple of us do. But the nice thing about Vegas too is when it's that hot, sometimes you don't do anything. You don't go to the pool or anything during the day, but then you hit the pool when the sun starts to go down and it's still like 98 degrees and you're swimming at night and having a good time. So
Yep. All right. So we'll be back next week. Well, actually, technically Sunday it starts the week. So when Brad comes back, we'll be back with a new show. We'll hopefully, because of who the Giants are playing next week, hopefully that means a lot of W's, because the following week they go to Atlanta, which I imagine is going to be a tough series, the World Series champions. So that'll be a fun one, though.
And they're on fire right now, too.
See a little Michael Harris III, man.
Ooh, yeah.
What a prospect. All right, so that's it from here. We will talk to you next week. For Brad, I'm Double G. See you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.